purchases. But we are really very much all over the world. Our clients that we work with are split up into a number of categories. Retailers direct around 40%, service providers 25%, and mixed assortment trucks, I'll talk a little bit more about that in a while, around about 25%. Our sourcing situation is as follows. We fetch produce from all over the world. In most production countries, we are active in some way or the other. And if you take time, you will see what the assortment itself is. We are based in Rotterdam, which is really one of the main ports in the world. There's some detail about it over there. And incidentally, it's also the port from which many thousands of immigrants departed in the 1800s to come to New York. So there's a nice link for today. In preparing for this presentation, I asked myself, but who are you really to talk about these disruptions? Well, in the first instance, I'm a product of South Africa, which is a country which has seen its fair number of disruptions, be it at political, economical, social level. I've been active in traveling for my job for the past 15, 16 years, and have experienced disruptions at first hand, from uprisings in Peru to volcanic eruptions in Iceland, to El Nino in Peru. So yeah, I've seen a lot of that happen. We are based in the middle of the fresh produce economic, or let me rather say it's a main economic hub that we're involved in, and whenever there's a disruption, we also feel it. To start off today, I took quite a bit of research from a group of organizations which worked together a couple of years ago, Planet Retail, Freshveld, and the Dutch bank, the Rabobank. And they came up with a lot of opportunities, strategies, in terms of the fresh produce world. And built into this, we also had a number of disruptions. So what did they say about the future? And what is a recipe for success? Well, first of all, they said the most important thing is to have the flexibility and the determination to do things differently. There's strong sustainability focus on the complex supply chain. So if you're able to be a CSR gatekeeper on behalf of your clients, you're one step ahead. They also believe that niche marketing based on brand stories would be important, and the product specialization would be another very important factor. I'm going to highlight what I believe to be 4 disruptions that we are encountering, or that we can encounter. And built into this, I will try and tell you about how we handle these type of things. The first disruption that I need to talk about is the fact that around about 2000, we had around 300 fresh produce specialists in the Netherlands. Today, only 82 remain. Now, those 300 specialists were people who really traveled the world, who looked for the best product, who built their stories all around the goodness and the specialness of their products. 82 of them remain. The whole split of fresh produce trading has gone from these people who used to be responsible for 70% of the volume. It's gone into the hands of the retailer. So yes, the growth of the retail has really caused a disruption at the wholesale level. And with these people, we've lost a lot of knowledge, expertise, and most specifically, passion for the product. So that was the first issue that I needed to highlight. Another thing, these people were responsible for building the real brands where we saw a lot of passion. There was always the goodness, there was always quality, taste, etc. was built into our brands. And it was amazing. I was going through all of the old American brands. It was amazing to see what was done. Today, however, that's a generic box that we supply to the retail. What does it say about the quality of the product? What does it say about the passion that goes into growing it? What does it say about the complexity of the chain? Absolutely nothing. So in my mind, this is one of the big disruptions that we've experienced, is that there used to be so much passion and energy in the industry, and there still is, but do we still convey it to the consumer? And I believe that's really something that we're missing out at the moment. We're actually killing our own story by not communicating about our brands and the strengths thereof. Another disruption, which is a fairly actual one in the sense that we mentioned Russia and Turkey today, is the boycott scenario. I actually need to get some information about this because it's important to understand the background of it. In 2014, when Russia imposed the ban, actually in 2013, the exports, the European farm exports to Russia were worth around about 11 billion, and 29% of the fresh fruit and vegetables grown in the European Union found its way into the Russian market. And that just came to a halt. That really overnight came to a halt, and it had all the potential to create a complete disruption of the European and specifically the Dutch traders. And in the short term, the first couple of weeks, we definitely saw a number of organizations taking strain. But then Paul Cézanne said, confusion is the welcome mat at the door of creativity. And within, I would imagine, 1 or 2 weeks, the trade started happening again. And that was at the heart of the fresh produce trader, was to find ways to solve the situation. What happened is that they created new logistics routes. There was creative packaging, new branding solutions, labeling solutions, new business partnerships developed. And when I say new branding and packaging solutions, I happened to be in, I think, St. Petersburg a couple of months after the crisis happened. I saw tomatoes from South Africa. I saw capsicums from Tunisia. No, I don't even know if they grow there. But the fact was that all of a sudden the creativity of the fresh produce trader just kicked in, and people found solutions to what could have been a big problem. And this is what Brian Silverman also said, is to survive means finding opportunity amongst challenges. And that is what makes the fresh produce industry so exciting to be involved in. The fourth disruption is the one which is close to my heart, and one that I feel is causing a lot of damage to the fresh produce industry. And that is the processed food industry. I have a real beef with it because in the past, this was a tomato. It was red and it was round, and that's it. If you walk through the supermarkets today, you will encounter all types of packaging where they're actually piggybacking on fresh produce, on my product, if I may call it that. And if you want to take an example of ketchup, for instance, go and have a look at it. But most people will tell you that when you use ketchup, you might as well start an IV of sugar, because that's really all that it is. And this is what a fairly outspoken American critic of the processed food industry said. No nutritional value. The minuscule amount of tomato paste might contain a very small amount of cooked lycopene. And the next sentence you can read for yourself, but this is actually an American publication. So it's a chemical thing. And I'm not saying this is true of all ketchups, but if you walk around and you have a look, then you will see that it is actually true. Holland is, of course, also a big potato-eating country. It's one of our staple foods. And when we make mashed potatoes, we take potatoes, we peel them, we boil them, we add butter and salt, we mash it, and that's it. If you go into the processed mashed potatoes and you have a look at the label, it tells a completely different story. But it's still my product that they're working with. So yes, we have the best product in the world. We have the product which stands for goodness, for health, etc. But we are actually allowing other people to abuse our assets. And when I walk through the supermarkets and I look at the processed food, then I think of this guy as a Supreme Court judge in America when they said to him, but how do you recognize hardcore pornography? He said, well, I know it when I see it. And I tell my children when they go to the supermarkets, if something needs a label, you actually don't need to buy it. So yeah, the bad stuff I also know when I see it. So what can we do about this whole issue of challenges and disruptions? Well, we believe you have to be creative, you have to be innovative, and you have to be extremely daring. You have to be prepared to think outside of the box. Around about 2007, we had to also change our stars, as they call it. We had to change our business and our thinking. And we took a couple of lessons from Peter Drucker, who said that the best way to predict the future is to create it. And we actually worked with our own people internally to give them a new mindset and to be able to think not in terms of what has happened, but what can we do, what can we create. And Drucker also said that you must also search for change and must respond to it and then use it as an opportunity. And if I can just go a little bit deeper into the Russian crisis of 2013, what actually happened within our organization is that at that time when this happened, we had been involved in a lot of areas around Russia already, the Baltic states, what we call the stands, the Kazakhstans, etc. We'd already been doing a lot of business with them. So when the Russian situation occurred, and the result was that it made trading options for these people possible, we actually ended up creating or expanding our frontiers and creating opportunities together with people who were possibly in a better position to do business with Russia. And these people are still with us today. So we are growing in those markets that most people don't want to get into, but for us it's creating added value. There's another reason why we are doing it, and that's because the more difficult the job, the more labeling a product requires, the more involved the logistics routes, the harder we shout, bring it on. Because we know within that scenario, we are actually creating the added value and we can earn a better margin on it. So we don't care if the job is difficult, if there's a lot of challenges to it. We do it, our people have been taught to respond to these challenges by thinking outside of the box. So that's really the first lesson that we got from the research which was done. And that's to be creative, daring, flexible, and eager to explore new frontiers. Peter Drucker also said that the aim of marketing is to understand your customers so well that your product or your service eventually ends up selling itself. But how do you do that? Can you sit on your chair and understand your customer? Absolutely not. We believed right from the beginning that that's not possible. I came across this quote from a Norwegian author, Karen Fossum, who said, if you want to be seen, you have to put yourself out there. It's that simple. So what did we do? We gave our financial director grey hairs with pushing the traveling budget to the maximum. We went everywhere, from Peru to Egypt to South Africa to Namibia, you name it, we went there. We engaged with growers, with trucking companies, with logistics people. We attended each and every show that we could. We always put our name out there. We made sure that people wrote about us, and in that we became recognized, and we were invited to participate also in other markets. We had to explore new frontiers, so we had to put ourselves into the Chinese supermarket. We had to go and visit to understand what was happening. And what was extremely important in this whole process is that it taught us to open our minds. So if you travel in Egypt, have a look around. How do the consumers move? How do they buy? How would your product end up there? And how could you bring it to the consumer in the best possible way? So that was the second lesson. Once you start moving around, looking at the world, absorbing everything, then you can start focusing on what really can be achieved within your market and within your business. One of the things that happened to us during this whole process, now I'm going back way back 2003, is that we saw this whole corporate social responsibility train coming at us, and it seemed to be moving at slow speed, but in essence, 10 years went like that. And we understood immediately that we needed to do something about CSR. Tom Peters said, branding is everything. And people tend to separate corporate social responsibility and marketing. And we were very blessed to understand from the beginning that CSR is just another strategy within your business. And any strategy that you have, you should also be able to brand. So what did we do? We took this whole CSR thing. We became, and we still are, the only fresh produce company in Europe to have a formal CSR certification. We did this by focusing on a number of things which we believe add value to our business, and that's our corporate integrity and governance, employee health within the company, environmental issues close to home. What can we do within our own company, within our own building, to make a contribution to the environment? And fourthly, something very special to us would be educational projects. And that was the third lesson. When you talk about CSR, you shouldn't ignore the signs from the marketplace, especially as far as the big retailers are concerned. People are still underestimating it, and they are pushing the responsibility onto other supply chain partners. But I still believe that in the near future, if you're not a certified CSR operator, then you will just diminish your chances with supplying into the big retail. You just have to do it. But you have to do it cleverly. So let's recap on the three lessons. The first one was that you have to be creative, daring, flexible. Second one, search for change, understand your customers. And the third one is you shouldn't ignore the signs from the market as far as corporate social responsibility is concerned. But it's great talking about all of these things as far as CSR is concerned, etc. But we needed also to understand the commercial responsibilities. Our clients wanted products with which they could earn money. That's our job. And we decided, and I'm so glad that it was mentioned earlier, I think you said you should sell your food with a story. And that's really, in essence, what we did. So way back in 2003, when we started thinking about social responsibility and making a contribution to the world, we created a brand which was called Freedom Fruit, and partly because of my South African roots. And it was so simple, it was actually embarrassing. We just took a name and we made a little drawing and it became a brand. But within, I think, 1.5 years, most of our products from South Africa and Namibia were packed in the Freedom Fruit brand. And it became a really, really nice story that we could use to engage with our customers. Now bear in mind, this is in our pre-formal CSR years. This was done really on gut feel, but it really, really, it made waves. We made the news and we made waves. In 2007, 2009 it was, we saw that the pineapple business was going to grow. It was going to become a mainstream commodity. And we decided to get involved in pineapples. But instead of going into the volume business, first of all, we created a brand which we call Bon Sweet. There aren't many companies with a bikini-clad lady on a box, but we did it. And instead of then going and just importing containers and containers, we developed a complete strategy around pineapples. We categorized it, also because of the fact that we are working in 52 countries, and not every country wants the same product. We took Bon Sweet Blue, which is our mainstream retail product. We then created a Bon Sweet Black, which is a higher colored product for our southern countries, like Spain. We created a top-end ready-to-eat product, Bon Sweet Select, which is still a flagship for us. Plus, again, we went outside of the box and we created a crownless pineapple, which we had a campaign, let's go topless, and everybody wanted to participate in the campaign. So we in fact created our own future by doing something which nobody else had ever done before. And to this day, Bondsuite is a real source of pride to us. But throughout that process, we kept on thinking, what is it that the client needs, the customer needs? They needed new packaging, they needed innovation, they needed certification. All of our pineapples are rainforest certified. So in really engaging with the customer and finding out what it is that they wanted, we just went back and we created what they wanted. And there's a great South African retailer, Raymond Ackerman, and one of his most famous quotes was, just give the lady what she wants. That's it. And that's what we did. So lesson 4 from the research project of last year was that niche marketing based on brand stories, quality and taste will gain in market share. Hence my question this morning about some people saying branding doesn't mean anything in your relationship with retailers. We still believe that it does, but you have to create the story. Just a little bit about our educational... Remember, I'm telling you a complete story, which is based on our strategy, and this is part of that strategy in handling disruptions in the future, currently and in the future. We engaged very heavily in social projects. This project was a direct result of Freedom Fruit, the brand. It was also sponsored by Freedom Fruit. And basically what we did is to engage our customers and to link them to this project. Now, this was a project we ran in South Africa. I think it is still the most successful sports project as a result of the 2010 World Cup. We developed community leaders. We trained a lot of them on how to take responsibility for your own life and for your own community. We took people with 2 hands, 2 feet, sometimes 1 eye, and who could communicate, and we taught them to be the real leaders within their community. When we started, our objective was to train 120 leaders from 40 communities, and when we started building off the project 1.5 years ago, we had trained 862 from 243 communities, and 1/3 of them were female, which is a really good track record if you consider the male-female relationship in South Africa, the gender equality thing. So what happened with this project is it became an official legacy program of the World Cup. It was a partnership between ourselves and various local governments, the Dutch Football Association, the South African Football Association. And that is part of our legacy, which we are again opening up also to our clients to be involved in. The other project that we are currently involved in is called La Pequeña Bibliotecas in Costa Rica, or Little Libraries in South Africa. What we saw in South Africa is that children, because of the AIDS epidemic, there are many, many children who only have one parent or maybe no parents at all. And they are cared for in care centers by volunteers. You know, care center, Tommy has been there. You shouldn't imagine anything more than a square corrugated iron shack with maybe some blankets on the floor and maybe 1 meal a day. That's it. So when these children get to school, most of them don't know what a book is because they're never exposed to books. And a friend of ours developed this project. We became involved as a result of Bondsuite, our pineapple brand. And today there are, I think, 120 little libraries spread all over South Africa. So the big question is, do we sell more fruit as a result of Stars in the Rise and little libraries? Maybe, maybe not, I don't know. But what it has done, in combination with our strong brands, Bondsuite and Freedom Fruit, the stories behind it, the social responsibility certification, is that our clients and our customers value that, and we do get loyalty from them. And in this very competitive fresh produce world, the loyalty which comes, or the loyalty which is based on a real story, is worth its weight in gold. So I actually have the final issue, which might be a bit of a surprise, but I think disruptions are just part of the business. They will come and go. We all had a big hiccup when we had to comply with food safety issues and minimum residue levels, etc. Then all of a sudden, after 9/11, we had food defense, which created another challenge to us. CSR was coming at us all the time. Global politics is changing all the time. El Nino is coming this year. We just have to deal with it. It's part of our business and it's part of our life. I believe, or we believe in any case, that there are a couple of things that we have to do, that each and every fresh produce business has to do. You have to be out of the box in terms of your sales and marketing and your branding. You must have a good heart because we operate all over the world and because we work with a product which is unmissable to everybody's life, in everybody's life. I call it shoot with a straight arrow. The fresh produce industry can only survive if it is based on complete honesty from A to Z. And I believe that we have to start a passionate love affair with our products again. We have to really, really communicate about them. We have to be proud of them. And I can only call it one word, and that's passion. That you must have it for your product. If we do this, we will have products and we will have stories and we have companies which will have a real place in the world and which will create a legacy. And I think then only one thing remains, and that's for all of us to share the rewards. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your great presentation. One question, how are you facing these problems of El Nino, especially in Costa Rica with this climate change? You
Sorry,
on the last point.
El Nino. El Nino and how you're facing these problems, especially in Costa Rica and in regards to climate change.
Thank you.
Well, that I can only answer by saying we also have to be completely honest with our clients. If the product is not there, or if the product is not there in the right quality, then we communicate that to our clients. So there's nothing really that we can do because we are specifically traders in pineapples from Costa Rica. That's what we do. And we adapt our volumes on the basis of what is available. So the short answer to El Nino is it is out of our control. El Nino has the same effect on us and on everybody else. But no, we won't compromise on quality and we will just stick with whatever is available from within the country.
Anyone else? CSR, some thoughts, someone? Oh, there's Miss Town. I should say Dr. Allen, excuse me.
Congratulations on an excellent presentation. I had the occasion maybe almost 10 years ago to work with Albert Heijn, who has a very strong corporate social responsibility. They had a project going on in Ghana on pineapples, and I wondered if you had a shared value with that company in particular, or whether that has made a difference in your relationship with them.
I'll try to answer it as objectively as I can. We are really doing projects that we believe in. To a certain extent, we do not engage in projects which do not align with our operation. And yes, we share the same values with Albert Heijn in terms of environmental aspects, social responsibility. But in the end, what I said at the beginning is that we have clients in 54 countries. So what we always try to do is to find an approach which we could offer to most of our clients. And for us, the answer has really been just to keep it simple. Not to have very complicated foundational structures, etc. It is straightforward. We focus on education. We work with the poorest of the poor. We work with our growers in terms of environmental aspects. And we try to keep our own house in order as far as the environment is concerned. And that's really our approach. So yes, we share the We share the values of a lot of the retailers. But I must also say that the focus, at the moment, the balance in the responsibilities as far as social responsibility is still a bit lacking. We still receive requests from all types of supply chain partners asking us for CSR declarations. But I have a certificate, I don't have to give any declaration. And those same people who are asking us for declarations do not even know what CSR means, but they are being pressurized by their retail clients to supply some form. And in the end, a lot of it becomes paperwork. And that's the one thing that we did not want to do. We did not want to be just a paperwork company as far as CSR is concerned. We need to keep it practical.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Other thoughts? Oh, Dr. Cook?
Hi, I just had a question. When markets are short, do you source from companies that are not within your CSR certified network?
Oh, absolutely. I believe that at the moment, probably in our global scale, probably only the people who have the Rainforest Alliance can show that they are CSR certified because of the complex nature and the short lifespan of CSR up to date. So yes, most of our suppliers are not CSR certified. But that doesn't mean that I don't comply with our expectations, because we visit all of our growers, so we make them understand that there are certain issues in terms of worker values, labor, etc., that we are not open to discuss. It has to be perfect. And the same we do with environmental aspects. There's always a big discussion around, but how can you enforce your CSR policies on growers? Well, we cannot. We cannot enforce it on them. Just to give you a short explanation, we go to a grower and we say to him, these are our CSR policies and what we expect you to do. And then he says, well, I have 20 other people who want my fruit who are not asking for these guarantees. And then what do? Do you walk away purely because you have a CSR certification and allow the grower to go his own route? Or do you compromise? We don't compromise. We try to look for the people who really believe in what we do. So I think in the coming years, there will be a lot of developments at grower level in terms of adhering to CSR standards, which still need to be developed throughout the world.
Jim?
Thank you, sir. First of all, I want to say that the pictures you had were absolutely phenomenal, very colorful. I think if there was an award, Jim, I definitely would give it to him. Phenomenal pictures. I really want to thank you for that. But the question is, you said you have 900 clients throughout the 54 countries, as you was showing the map earlier, and a little over half of them buy from you on a regular basis, and the other half don't. I'm just wondering, why is that? Are these people just seasonal, or they just buy when they want to? What's the reason with that, sir?
Well, if you look at the construction of our client base, you will see that, and we actually did the exercise a couple of months ago, you will see that around 350, 400 of them buy regularly year on or month in, month out throughout the year. And those would be the people that you've have developed good relationships with. That would be retail programs, etc. But you must also understand that in the bigger European market, people tend to think that it's no. Let me rather put it this way: it's one open market. Everybody knows everything. And there are times when we have specific products that might be cheaper than the competitors and people would buy from us. There are times when that would not be the case and they would go somewhere else. And those are just natural fluctuations within the open market system in Europe. On top of that, we cannot, at this point in time, handle 900 customers who buy from us every week. It's just impossible. So we've spent a lot of time focusing on those customers with whom we want to and with whom we are able to develop a long-term relationship. But I think our picture with that type of purchasing behavior from customers is very much what you would see with most of the traditional type importers, fresh produce companies in Europe.
Oh, one more. Here you go, Laurie. Oh, Tommy.
Thank you, Nick, for a great presentation. Really thought-provoking. And I mean, there's a lot of things I can pick up from. But one thing that kind of struck me is this processed food statement you're saying, in a way, and maybe I'm overstating, but in a way, there's sort of, I got the feeling we're saying that they are killing the fresh produce industry. And I think this is an exaggeration. So why? And because there's a lot of need now for convenience. We heard stories this morning about that. So how can you somehow engage them? And how can you create those stories? How can you lead people to go back to produce food in their home? And how does that happen?
I understand your question completely, because it's something that that I've been discussing with various people over the past year. The only thing that I can say is that if I look at, and I'm talking Europe because that's my experience and my expertise, but if I look at Europe and I look at there's another factor that I'll cover. If I look at the creative capacities of fresh produce companies and the assets they are prepared to dedicate to communicating their story, it's very, very small. And in fact, I think that most of the big processed food companies, their marketing budgets is probably the equivalent of our annual turnover. So we cannot fight on the basis of advertising and marketing. We absolutely cannot. But I tend to think that something I said, that passionate love affair with your own product. There's a lot of aspects within the presentation that I'm saying have created this. The fact that we are, in certain instances, forced to supply our product that we really believe in and we love in a black box, which could also have been used for peanuts or motor car spare parts or whatever. And this is all detracting from that specialness of our product. And somebody else said this morning that we have a really, really, really valuable and worthwhile product. It's one of the most beautiful products to work with. Yet, what do we communicate? We are not putting the passion and the flair into our advertising and our branding anymore. And I think that's at the root of the problem. We've lost either the will or the capacity to be creative, aggressive, and really proud of our product.
All right, one more. Right, I guess that's it. Thank
That's
you
it.
so
Thanks,
much.
Jeff.